date before the state will approve an incentive package. So that's where we are right now, is waiting for that to happen. But, you know, people from the project have been to Clinton recently. Everything else is moving forward. We're talking about getting water out to the park through Iowa American Water, specifically for them to use. Again, obviously with the RISE grants, and I say that because the RAISE grants, you know, used to be the build grants, and that's the RAISE grants. So that's a separate thing that the city of Clinton, to their credit, just recently received from the federal government, and that's more to fix like Manufacturing Drive and Bluff. So that's the RAISE money. The RISE grants has already been applied for and awarded. So we have a lot of stuff going on. Everything is mostly set up, but again, as you and I have talked about before, it's never over till it's over. So
is this one of those that says it's all but?
All but.
Sure, you wish you could tell people more, but you have
but you know,
so your words carefully.
For sure. And why? Because it could fall apart. And, you know, anything could fall apart, you know, at the last minute. I mean, that's just life. You know, life happens, and for any number of reasons, this could feasibly fall apart. But I could say that for any project, not just for this one. And so that's why we don't give the name out, you know, and we don't celebrate early. You know, we're not going to celebrate a win until we actually know for a fact that it's a win.
So the clock's at zero, and
yes, and then the ink is dried on the paperwork and everything else. So, but it is all moving along, you know, as we expected. Again, they had planned for quite a long time now to actually purchase the land and break ground in early 2022. That's been their plan from the beginning. We still are on that plan. So.
Does it sometimes get frustrating to take 2 years and you can't, you know, does your patience wear out sometimes? We've talked, some of these projects take years. Your patience wear out a little bit, especially one that's this close and you just want it to finish.
Well, you know, yes and no. So yes, you're always excited and you want to be able to share good news and stuff. So there's definitely that piece of it. But the other piece of it is, if it was our only project, then I would say yes, it would be even more frustrating. But it hasn't been our only project. We've been very busy with other projects. And so that kind of moderates things. You know, we know that this is going on in the background. We've been working on it continuously with the city of Clinton and the utilities at this point. The utilities are heavily involved in the process as well. So that has been going on, but we've also had these additional projects throughout the year. Like we have Nave Family Beef, you know, which we announced earlier this year. ADM was announced earlier this year. They received a state incentive related to the Spiber project
that
we talked about at length. And Spiber, very much so. Again, they're retrofitting an existing part of ADM's facility, you know, where they're doing the fermentation. So that's in South Clinton. So they're not building anything from scratch, but they are retrofitting and refurbishing the existing. So ADM is heavily obviously involved in that. They're creating upwards of 48 new jobs to go along with that. So all of that was announced earlier this year. And then Big River Packaging, you know, was doing a major expansion for them. That's fantastic. And that's been underway. So those were the 3 projects that we did announce earlier this year. We currently have 2 others that we were hoping would be announced by the end of the calendar year. And that is Project MG that we just talked about. And then we have another one that is also a local business expansion. And we've been working with them, I'd say at least 4 months. They have a consultant and they've hired, you know, to really sort of be the face of it. And so we've been working with the consultant and the company. And again, fingers crossed, there is some time left on the calendar for them to get onto the Iowa Economic Development Authority's Board of Directors agenda for December, but that's not up to us. So we'll see how that goes. We were hoping that we'd be able to announce upwards of 5 projects again this year. Last year, we had 5 projects announced, so that would have put us right on par with last year. And last year, as you know, was like our best year in a long time. So
are there other projects? We mentioned these. What's going on otherwise?
Sure.
You still getting inquiries? No, we've talked this. Surprisingly, during COVID, we're busy with inquiries. Are you still having that as 2021 continues?
You know, it's interesting because it has slowed down. Like it really has slowed down, and I can't necessarily wholly explain that. So last year, during COVID, when it was a lot hard, we're in the heart of the pandemic last year, we were still getting frequent inquiries, and we had an in-person site visit. Project Peony was a large project that came to us, and we were in serious consideration. We were like in their top 4 sites. They physically came here in November of last year to look at the rail park. And then we found out late in the year, early January of this year, that we didn't move on to the final phase. And again, that had to do with the price of corn, which would have been their feedstock. So there wasn't a lot we could do about that, unfortunately. But in all of 2021, we haven't done a site visit. No one has been here to do a site visit, which is unusual. This is the first year in a number of years where we haven't had any site visits. So have we gotten leads? Yes, and we've responded to those leads. We typically get them from Iowa Economic Development Authority, Quad Cities Chamber of Commerce. We partner very closely with them. We've gotten some leads from them. I think we've done a lot, ironically, on the commercial side this year. And as you and I have discussed, the Clinton Regional Development Corporation is mostly focused on industrial development. We're working with existing businesses, especially manufacturers. And for business attraction, we're trying to specifically bring in mostly manufacturing companies. However, we are working with a couple of renewable energy companies like Ranger Power. So they've gone public. So Ranger Power is the company that's doing the solar project around Grand Mound. They've had a lot of media attention on that recently. We support that. We wholly support that. Having renewable energy sources here in Clinton County would be a huge benefit from an economic development perspective. So for example, when we get these inquiries in from, say, a new manufacturing company that's looking at Clinton for a potential new location, they will now ask us, if I locate in Clinton County, will I have access to renewable energy sources? They want to know if they could tap into solar or wind energy. And currently the answer is sort of, Alliant Energy in particular, and I think maybe REC, they have some access to, and I'm not sure how the whole system works. They can claim that they have access to, but to be able to plug in more locally or more directly would be a huge benefit. Like a lot of the manufacturing companies, for their own sustainability goals, they want to be able to say that they're using renewable energy. So from our perspective, that would be a huge plus.
You got the annual meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. Guess what's going to be your message? What are you going to tell folks? And obviously, those are things you'd like to be as positive as possible. Can you keep that positive outlook for that annual meeting?
Yes. I mean, we have a ton of things to celebrate this year. And obviously, workforce development is one of them. So workforce development is something that the Clinton Regional Development Corporation covers, but I'd say we've picked that up, maybe tenfold in the last year. So we work very closely with Clinton Community College and then Eastern Iowa Community Colleges, but also the high schools locally. And to some extent, I was over at Whittier Elementary School even. They have a new computer science program, and we were a business partner with them to apply for the grant at the state level to get that money. And what an impressive program. I went over to Whittier literally just a couple of weeks ago. So from kindergarten through 5th grade, these students are now using state money. So the governor has her STEM council, and they applied for a grant with our assistance and our support. And they're using these computers in school and doing like robotics and some just really cool stuff starting at the kindergarten level. So that was cool to see. So how do you multiply that out, and get up into the high school level where you're literally, again, getting in front of students and explaining to them what jobs are available if you stay here in Clinton County once you graduate? How do you get those jobs? What skills are needed? Where do you get the skills? How do you get the skills? Do you need a college degree, or can you go to CCC and get a certificate program? It costs a lot less money, Can you get hired? And then the company that you work for, the employer, pays for you to go to Clinton Community College and get a certificate program. That happens frequently. There's a lot of our employers here who also can get state money to pay for training their employees, and or they just pay directly, or obviously they do just in-house training. There's a wide range of opportunities. But again, just trying to explain to these students what opportunities are available. And then last year, we started the Manufacturing Awareness Certificate Program with Clinton Community College. That is still underway. And that was really meant to help people who had never worked in manufacturing transition to a manufacturing job, and that's going well. And then more recently, CCC started up like a management, leadership certificate. So even inside of the manufacturing company, obviously you have leadership roles. There's no question about that. You could be a foreman, you could be any number of different things. So how do you teach people within that environment, manufacturing environment, about leadership And now they have a new certificate program at Clinton Community College that we're encouraging people to go through as well. So workforce development has been huge. That will continue to be a significant priority, because you can't just help existing businesses like business retention and expansion, or try to attract new businesses and then do nothing for workforce. It's not possible. Those those three things really all go hand in hand. It's a great partnership. So we want to thank Brian Kelly, president over at Clinton Community College, and Tim Cottle, who was like their training guru. We work very closely with him. And there's just a lot of activity going on. Obviously, we have the Career and Technical Education Centers, the CTE centers, and the funding was approved for that earlier this year, and now they're already breaking ground. We were just there recently. You were there too. Breaking ground for the new CTE center that's going to be right across the street from the existing Clinton Community College campus. Very excited about that. That'll be up and running next year. And that is meant to help high school students in particular take technical training while they're still in high school. And then as soon as they graduate, they're going to be lined up to get a good paying job here locally. Obviously, is the point. They could go elsewhere. They don't have to stay locally. But the point is they'll have a local resource. We have fantastic local companies who are willing to hire them. So ideally, most of them, will stay here after they finish that training.
We're talking with CRDC's Erin Cole. And Erin, counter flips over. Can you project anything for 2022? What's it going to look like? Do you know yet? You got any thoughts? Any crystal ball that you can?
Yeah, I don't have that. I wish I had the crystal ball. I don't know for sure, but we've talked now recently. Andy Sokolovich, my vice president for economic development, he was just on with Chris Streets yesterday and talking about the merger. So I think that's like the biggest, yeah. So that's probably going to be the biggest kind of exciting developments and how that's going to work out exactly. But for those of you who aren't familiar and are listening right now, so the Clinton Regional Development Corporation, the CRDC, is an economic development organization. So again, we focus on a fairly limited number of things like business attraction, business retention, expansion, mostly for manufacturing companies, workforce development, and also workforce attraction. So trying to bring in more people to our community through like Home Base Iowa and some other programs. Then we have the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce, which has been around for like 140 years. I mean, a significant amount of time. And so the thought process right now is sometime in the first quarter of 2022, the two will merge. So the CRDC and the Chamber of Commerce will merge together. The Clinton Convention and Visitor Bureau is under the Chamber of Commerce. And so obviously that's going to be a part of it as well. So those three entities, if you will, the CVB is not a standalone nonprofit, but they're under the chamber. They obviously have their own budget, though. It comes from like the hotel and motel tax. But a lot of great things going on. So once that merger takes place, my understanding from the draft business plan that we've seen so far is that it will include just about all the things that the CRDC is currently doing. Those things would continue. And then ideally, we'd be able to add some things that are missing now, things like entrepreneurship support, small business development, startup support. We have the Wilson Building project that's underway already. And we've been told that on the first floor of the Wilson Building, once it's completed, they're planning to have business incubator space. That would be our first business incubator space in all of Clinton County. And with that, they're planning to have some industrial kitchen space, which would be awesome because Clinton High School, for an example, they have a culinary arts program at the high school, and that would be fantastic for the students. And, you graduate, you think maybe you want to get into the restaurant business or a food truck or something, but you're not to the point where you don't have the money to do that, you don't have the support to do that. You can move into this business incubator space, use the industrial kitchen, perfect your recipes, perfect whatever it is that you're trying to perfect, and then move out and be more confident in the fact that you can start your own business and have a better chance of being successful. So this is huge for us. I mean, I see this just as a huge opportunity on the entrepreneurship side. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in our community. We don't talk about it all that frequently. We don't do a ton of events where we're sort of pulling these people out of their homes because most of them are doing something, in their home. A lot of super successful businesses have started with somebody in their garage or the basement. We joke about that. And every community has them. I'm certain that here in Clinton County, we have entrepreneurs who are doing some really cool stuff right now. but they need that support, that one-on-one support from somebody who knows about small businesses, knows about entrepreneurship, knows what the state's resources are to help those people. There are grants available for entrepreneurship, grants available for different things. We're not really providing that assistance right now. No one is specifically providing that assistance. The CRDC, together with the Chamber last year, started to work with the Quad Cities Chamber SCORE chapter. So SCORE is an acronym. It's the Senior Corps of Retired Executives. They're under the Small Business Administration. And for free, they do provide counseling and services to startups or to entrepreneurs or even existing small businesses. So we just really made that connection last year. The Quad Cities SCORE chapter now does cover Clinton County. So anyone in Clinton County who does have a small business or you have an idea for a small business, you can receive free services currently. They're mostly virtual, and you can do that through the Quad Cities SCORE chapter. And if anyone wants information on that, they can contact the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. But I think in the future, there's so much more that we could add to that. And that could be a revenue generator that you could charge for services and you could charge for events and things like that. So I'm really excited about the fact that not only are we going to include the things we're currently doing, but we'll have an opportunity to add things that we haven't been doing.
These type of mergers have come and gone. Is this kind of a movement you think has some benefits for the community? Again, the Chamber might have a little different audience than the CRDC. Mm-hmm. Combine those two. Is this, I guess, for the community, you think a good move?
I do. No, I definitely do. We're co-located now. For those people who don't, we are physically co-located in the same building on the first floor of the Armstrong building at 721 South 2nd Street. And so you would have cost efficiencies, obviously, in some of the sharing staff and sharing services. I think that's an important opportunity. You obviously have collaboration going on already, but it would be an opportunity to build on that. To your point, there is some overlap in our investors or our members. So a lot of the bigger companies, whether it's Mercy One or it's, Lyondell Basell, a lot of the bigger companies are members of both of our organizations. The Chamber of Commerce has more of the members that might be like retail and restaurants. We have fewer of those for the CRDC. We have some, but a lot fewer. So I think that it would be a great opportunity for cost efficiency's sake, and then also for the sake of the business that is a member of both of them, to eventually be able to make a single payment once a year instead of getting invoices from the CRDC throughout the year and the chambers sending invoices throughout the year. I think it'll be more efficient.
I guess once the merger technically takes place, it may take a while to smooth out some bumps
sure, of
in
course.
the road as usual
Sure.
when these things happen.
Yes.
It just hopefully people will kind of hang on and work through those.
I don't know what the full plan is right now. So there's a steering committee that has been formed from members of the boards of directors from the CRDC and the Chamber of Commerce, and then the advisory board for the CVB. So there are people who have been actively working on this now since, I guess, May of this year. It's probably been close to 6 months. And so they hired a consultant, an Iowa-based company, and with their help came up with, again, a business plan that we now have in place, at least a draft business plan. Budget is critically important, as you can imagine, So technically on paper, you can merge our two budgets. The CRDC has an existing budget, Chamber has an existing budget. On paper, you can put them together. That's one thing. That is going to be harder to grow. That's going to allow you to do the things you're doing right now, but that doesn't necessarily allow for growth. So we're trying to figure out, where do we get some additional funding that would allow for the growth aspect? And there are different pots of money. There are different options out there for that. So that's being discussed. Again, obviously the cost efficiencies, that could be found from that. We both have our own website. We both, have audits every year that we have to do. Then we'd only have one. So instead of both of us paying money for an audit, then there's a single audit. Et cetera. We don't both have to run a website in a CRM and all this other kind of stuff. So there'll definitely be cost efficiencies. But will there be bumps in the road? Sure. I mean, anytime you have a merger, there are going to be, some little bumps along the road that just have to get worked out. Maybe just people didn't think about it in advance. There will be a new board of directors for the new entity. So the 3 boards will go away and a single new board will be created. So that'll be a process, as you can imagine. New bylaws are being produced. So right now it's a lot of technicalities that are critically important and do take some time. But those things are very much actively underway.
I want to thank Erin Cole from the CRDC for coming in. Any
Thank
quick,
you so
final
much.
comments?
No, Dave, I really appreciate it. Hope to see you on Wednesday, December 15th at the CRDC's annual meeting.
And if you're an investor in the CRDC and haven't gotten the invitation,
Yes,
give the office a
contact the
call.
CRDC for sure.
Hey,
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for coming in.
Sure.